Hi, my name is Jason, and this is Technique of the Week. Today we're going to be showing you guys how to, when we're working with a pattern like this Arizona flagstone, where it has a lot of different random type of stones, it's not a straight pattern, that you can hide the saw cuts real easy. You know, I see this pattern a lot of times and there's saw cuts, you know, put all through it, and I believe that kind of makes this type of pattern look a little bit more fake. Makes it look more like concrete. The objective of stamped concrete is to make it look like stones, and when we saw cut it up in, you know, 8 by 8 squares, it kind of starts to look a little bit like concrete again. To achieve this without putting saw cuts in, we're going to use one of these zip strips. I don't know how many of you have seen these before, but basically this is you know, on a regular 4-inch residential pour, this is the same depth that you would be making a saw cut, is the depth of this white piece of plastic. So this piece of plastic gets pushed into concrete, and you'd put one of these everywhere where you have a saw cut, and what it ends up doing is making a hairline crack right above it. So it's a lot less conspicuous. We got a lot of rebar in this, and we're using some fiber. So I know that if it does a crack above these, it's just gonna be a hairline crack, and that's a lot less noticeable than a big, you know, 1/4 to 1/2 inch wide saw cut. The first key to doing this is laying out your saw cuts like how you would on this particular project, you know, how you would normally put your saw cuts in the slab. So that's what we've done, kind of measured the distances and figure out how big of blocks we want and all that stuff. So what we're gonna do is use these as our screed lines right down through here where these pins are. And I actually stringed these from a point here. This is our center point. And I've stringed that from here to the end of the form. And that's right where we've put our stakes. These zip strips are 10 foot long. So what I've done is put a pin or one of these pieces of rebar about every 10 foot 2 inches. So we have a little bit of room to work with there. And these are gonna be, as we're straight edging, and you'll see this in a minute, you'll be able to see right where we are. We'll know that that's where we're gonna put these in at. The other one I'm gonna mark this way. So I'm gonna put a mark up here on this, and I'm also gonna put one right here on this face. That way we know when we get to this point, where we're gonna set these ones in at. And I've got the same thing over here on this other form. That way we can put a string in here and be able to get the exact straight line across here from the house. The other thing we're gonna do, just so we can find our marks on our forms to make our straight lines with the zip strip, is we're gonna paint these on the back side of this so we know kind of where it's gonna go. And I'm gonna mark the concrete on the other side. So just so we kind of have a reference point to draw our eye to it so we know where they're gonna go. We're gonna lay everything out, get everything cut, everything ready to go before the truck gets here. That way they're easy to lay in. So we've got our first base screeded off here. We know where the pin is down there. Jeff, why don't you just put your finger in there and mark that so that we can see right where that's at. Okay, and then I got my mark up here, which we got a pencil mark there. So now we've welded this piece of strip. I had this made a long time ago. It's a piece of tubing on top of like an 1/8 of an inch flat stock that we weld, and there's exactly 10 foot long. It's exactly the size of a zip strip. So this helps push all the stones, separate the stones, so our zip strips stay straight then. So that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna kind of push that in. He's gonna line it up with the stake down here.
On?
Yep. Gonna kind of vibrate it a little bit, push it down in there good, make sure it's the whole way down. That gives us our line, and now this thing will go in there perfect. Like I said, I've spaced these stakes so they don't, so the zip strips don't actually hit the pins. So we're just gonna start at one end, and it'll find its way into that, where we just put that piece of metal in there. And we wanna bury this about, probably about a 1/8 of an inch underneath the concrete. We're just gonna kind of tap it down like that. Make sure it's all kind of even. Then we just pull the top of it off. That gives us our line for our saw cut. Now what Jeff's gonna do is just gonna put a little bit of concrete back on top of that. Now I'm gonna take my pin down, we're gonna mark. I'm gonna put this so we can see that at the very end, so we know where to line up our next one. The other thing that we have to talk about when we're doing a job with these zip strips is the fact that we really have to educate our homeowner of exactly what it's doing, that we're not eliminating cracking with the saw cut. When you see saw cuts in a job, I mean, that's not eliminating a crack, it's just telling it where to crack. And with this system, it does the same thing. We're just putting a strip of plastic in there the same depth that a control joint would be, and we're letting it crack right on top of those at the same placements that we would have a normal saw cut. So it's just a matter of personal preference. You know, not everybody's gonna go for this. They don't want to see a crack, but on this particular job, rather than to put saw cuts across there, I think it makes it look fake. So it's just a technique to use to try to help make it more aesthetically pleasing. And if you can educate your homeowner on the fact and they go for it, it's a great sell. People like it. We're back here at the project. It's been real close to a year later, and just to show you kind of how this weathers and how these zip strips look, you know, when they've opened up. This one here is pretty typical, as you can see right in front of me. It's a nice, you know, straight crack. This one here we got put in properly. Some of these other ones on this project, you know, we might have got in if you get the zip strips in too much, it won't make like a very straight crack right above it. This is what we're after. This technique's a little bit, you know, tricky. It takes some time. You know, I'm kind of rusty. I don't do this every day like I used to, so you know, it's not as good as I would have liked it to be, but it's still doing the same thing. You're just controlling where it cracks with these strips, and to me personally, in this type of pattern, it looks a lot better. Well, that's it for this week's Technique of the Week. Hopefully this will help you guys, you know, if you ever have a job like this where you don't want a saw cut, or the homeowners, you know, a little bit, you know, apprehensive about, you know, putting saw cuts in it. It's a good alternative. It takes a little bit more time. You got to have a good crew. You got to have it all planned out ahead of time. That's the biggest thing when you do something like this, is having a good plan and having it all ready to go before the truck even shows up. If you like what you've been seeing with Technique of the Week, we do offer training classes that we have periodically. Or if you have any questions about any things that we do during this thing, just call one of our stores. We'd love to help you out in any way we can to help this industry along. And you know, if everybody's doing good work, it helps everybody. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time.